it goes live, and then there we are. Hello, welcome to Alienate UK on this Wednesday evening / afternoon. It's 8:31, 3:31, 2:31 and 12:31, and probably 11:31 if you're listening in Alaska. So, speaking of which, at the Cryptid conference over the weekend, I got sent this as an email from Pi, who comes in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
That's on his mobility scooter.
Oh, cool.
How top is that?
That's awesome.
That is so good. So, yeah, well impressed. Even more impressive, we have the guest coming on. He's just logging into his laptop because he's struggling with his mobile. Mm-hmm. We are fully booked up until October with guests coming on. And I mean, these guests are like...
good guests.
Yeah. So, but then there's some that are coming on that have been on before. Yeah, but because I got to meet them and talk to them, it gives it a whole new perspective on everything.
Yes.
So I'm still wearing my favourite cap for the time being.
Knockers.
Yeah, so it's all good. We do have a panel show coming up. It will be on a Friday. It will probably go out to everyone to make it fair, because the guests that are coming on it are top notch. They're all top notch anyway, but it's just getting the right people with the right dynamics and mixing it up a bit. So
you're vibing with the right frequencies.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, just quickly. So we're in this Instagram that Brandon threw us in. We have someone coming on who's going to be in France when they come on the show. I'm not sure where they're from, to be honest, but it's just going to be amazing. They're all going to be amazing. I'm not giving any names away at the moment, but I sent out 12 invites for people to come on the show, and I'm waiting for one to get back to me.
Wow.
Everyone else has gone, yes,
that's
please.
Awesome.
I know. Like, oh my God, this is so wicked. So, yeah, I'm looking at the 11th of July to do the panel show. So that's 6 weeks ish.
Okay.
So yeah, is that good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4 people to 5 that I need to get in touch with. And also, for those who don't know, a week on Saturday, I'm going for a trip to London town. Yeah. And I'm meeting up with... I've not told you, have I?
No, drum roll.
George Mitrovic.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
So he, at the moment, is in Cairo. He's there for a few days. Then he's coming over to the UK. Specifically said about meeting up. He wants to do a podcast, so I'm going to do a live podcast. Going to do a live recording. Depending on the background noise and where we're going to be when we do it, we'll decipher whether it's going to go out live or pre-record. If it's a lot of background noise, we'll pre-record it. Then I can filter it and get it all sorted. And yeah, he's going to be talking about lots of different things, and it's going to be very, very exciting. He's actually... I'd love to meet every single one of you, but he was like, because he's the other side of the world, the least likely person I ever expected that I was going to meet. So, looking forward to that. Right, our guest is now ready. So, awesome. Aid Morris is his name. I was lucky enough to go and see him talk at BUFOG a couple of months ago. A lot of the stuff that he's going to be talking about is very relatable to a lot of people in the chat and a lot of the viewers. And it's easy to get, some of it's easy to get into, but some of it's like messes with your mind a little bit. But I only managed to get like 5 minutes, like one-on-one chat with him, and then he got called back up by Dave. So yeah, a bit of a bummer, but at least I got to talk to him, and he's on the show now. So get your questions ready because it's going to be amazing, like every other one. So see you guys in a little over 1 minute. See you soon.
Let's go.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
And welcome, Aid. Thank you, Aid, Nicole, Aid.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
So Nicole is in New York County, so that's why we do it later to give it time. Because I'm kind like this, to give it time to get in from work and get ready and to get started. So it's all good.
Basically, time to get home from work because I get out at 3. I walk in my door at 3:25 and start my computer. And
right, wow. Well, I kind of get the time differences because I've just come back from Mexico, so my body is still adjusting to English time. So yeah. So we could have really done it for your time, and I probably would have been all right. So anyway, here we are right now.
Andy wouldn't have been. He tried that last weekend when he was at the convention.
Luckily, it's in the hotel and it was just me. There wasn't a house full of people, so I didn't have to worry about waking anyone up. So
yeah,
but I was horizontal for the whole show.
Yes, he was, and a little sleepy.
Very sleepy. Yeah. Very long weekend, but definitely well worth it. So, welcome, Aid. Thank you for coming on. So I was just saying, I didn't really get a lot of time to talk to you on a one-to-one at BFOG the other month, but the time I did get, it was with what you was talking about. I was just saying, and I said to you, it's very relatable for if you used to come on the show when I said at the time for a lot of the viewers that watch him. So do you want to start and we'll just kick off and we'll throw questions in as and when?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been an experiencer and contactee my entire life. And so I've also done astral travel, gone out of my body, and it's kind of has opened up, I don't know, like a beacon or something along those lines for entities and whatever you might like to call them, non-humans, to contact me on a regular basis. Usually it's in the sleep state. And to try and explain to people, obviously, we are amazing. You, me, all of us, we're amazing. We have this physical body, and then we have our astral body that's inside. You might call it a soul, Jedi light body, whatever you want to call it. But that's the real us inside, and we're experiencing this physical existence. And so every night when we go to sleep, our light body rises up, Kundalini energy rises up the spine. We exit our physical body and we traverse the multiverse. And then every morning we fall back, not into sin like the Bible says, we fall back into skin. And so it's this perpetual motion of rising and falling. And as I say, we are incredible, but there is a control measure in place. So we forget quickly, as soon as we wake up, we quickly forget where we've been, what we've seen, and what we've experienced. But I've been quite lucky that I can really have good recall of where I've been, what I've seen, what I've heard, all of these sorts of things. And I'm able to then sort of like relay that. It doesn't happen all the time. And when I go to sleep as well, when I'm in the phase state, which is just between asleep and awake, and I'm lying there with my eyes closed, but I'm consciously aware of my surroundings, I often start to tune in, and I'm able to see things, other realities, dimensions. And I'll quickly tell you one that happened last night.
Oh yeah.
I was lying there with, as I say, my eyes closed, just in the phase state, and I started to see it looked like a big big bath or a pool of some sort. Looked quite like it was made of concrete. And as I looked further, I could see somebody like holding up what I thought was a mask. And then it's so like I could see the picture more and more, and there were more people in this area, and it was a big vat of blood, and they were holding up literally skinned people's faces, stuff like that. Obviously these sort of things don't happen to me very often. I have had encounters with demonic entities too, which aren't very nice either, but these experiences are few and far between, where I do go to these places that just aren't nice, and I'm seeing things that just, because I don't watch, if I can just explain, I don't watch horror movies or anything like that. It's not my bag. I don't, if I'm going to bed or anything like that, I tend to stick on a nice rom-com or something like that, something to make me laugh, rather than something horrific that's, going to lower my vibration. Yeah. So these things are kind of unusual. So I make note of them. But I say these places do exist. One thing I wanted to point out, the demons are very, very real. I've crossed paths with a few of them. But it does get slightly frustrating when people say that everything that is non-human is a demon. Right, because that's just simply not true.
Yeah,
you've got demonic entities, and you've got an infinite amount of different races, non-human races. Right, so to say everything that's non-human is a demon is like saying everything that swims in the ocean is a fish. It's it's a little bit sort of like frustrating, and I just wish people would say, back off that whole one. Yes, demons are very real. They're not very nice. But yeah, as I say, you've got a whole host, a smorgasbord of entities that are right there, both good and bad. There was, if I start off perhaps explaining about who we are and what we do on a nightly basis, I was woken up at 4:44 in the morning. I knew it was that time because I rolled over and I had a look at the clock. And I was woken up by an entity that was wanting to tell me about the true nature of reality by me. And so obviously you can imagine it's early hours in the morning. I'm very tired, and it starts off and it's saying, chatting away, and obviously what it's doing is it's speaking to me telepathically. So this is all coming into my head. I'm consciously awake, and it said, we exist in multiple places at the same time, simultaneously, past, present, and future. And that I was to perceive each one of those realities as a string to a guitar. Now, each reality has its own unique sound, but together they make a harmonious chord. Mm-hmm. And it went on to say, if you live your life negatively, so in hate, anger, whatever it might be, then you detune the string, and that then affects the overall sound of the chord, right? And so what it was trying to tell me there was that our actions here directly affect other realities. Okay, which is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, it's incredible enough to sort of think that we are existing in multiple different places, so lots of different versions of us. And I think what we do is that we can go like a jumper. So you jump from your consciousness jumps into the consciousness of another you in another reality, of an evening, of a nighttime. So you can experience that as well. So, but it's fascinating to think, do they do the same here? Well, it's an interesting question.
Well, I've got a question. So if we jumping, our consciousness is jumping from one to the other.
Yeah.
How would we then know which one is the real us, the real you? Because that's always puzzled me. That.
But what is real? What is real?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, we've got our base reality, which I'll call this reality. This physical reality is our base reality. So, it's a very, very good question, and I just think we naturally, in the whole process of it, we naturally know where to go. And it's exactly the same process happens, with us exiting our body. It happens when we die. So our physical body dies, but our soul, like body, it carries on. So it just exits the body the same way it's done our entire lives. It's just a natural process. So I think there is some sort of mechanism for us to remember exactly what is our base reality. If we're so incredible and amazing that we can traverse the multiverse, then I'm guessing that we tend to know which is our original reality.
We know what bus to get on.
Yeah.
No, it's always, because I used to watch The Flash, and they have like different universe. I know their consciousness isn't jumping from one to the other, but they have different versions of themselves on different planets. So it's going to be somewhat similar. It's like, so each personality of each version of yourself is going to be slightly different than the last. Maybe even physically look different as well. I don't know. I'm just going off the TV show.
Yeah. I would say, if you haven't seen it, you'd want to watch Doctor Strange, the Into the Multiverse. That is not a movie, that's a documentary about what we do and where we go. And so it's pretty amazing, really. It's really, really spot on. It's taken me a good amount of time to sort of like come to terms with what I do. And it's difficult to explain it sometimes. Well, I try my best to really explain, but I had a recent situation that I'll tickle on, which was that my consciousness from this reality was needed elsewhere. I had a situation here, and what happened was a consciousness from another timeline was put into this body, because you can't have a physical body here without consciousness, because it's kind of like the film or movie Avatar. Until they project their consciousness into the body, it's just lifeless, or it just looks like it's permanently asleep. So what happened was, this other consciousness of me came into my body, and I was gone for Mimi was gone for I think it was 2 days, doing something. I've not been allowed to know what that something was. But when I came back here, it was like I'd got they called it something, residual transfer memory was what I was told, because I projected out. I said what's gone on, right? Because literally it felt like I was a totally different me, and it was a lot of anger and negativity and upset was like bottled up in this body. And then all of a sudden there was the May Day storm here in England, and literally this huge thunderstorm passed over, and And it was when the storm had passed, it was like a bang flick, and I was back, me, and I could feel. It just felt amazing, you know. But there was that where I'd gone down a different path, or this other reality, me, where it was a very, very negative, very, very dark version of me. So I then asked, well, why did you do that? Whoever it is that sort of like needed the me of now to go elsewhere. Obviously, I was needed for something, but they said it was important for release work and stuff like that. Well, I was saying, don't do that again.
Yeah.
It almost like literally destroyed my life here. So it's very difficult to try and explain. And you've got the scoop. I've not spoken about that to anybody, but consciousness transfer is very, very real.
So this could happen to anyone at any time without them knowing about it, because kind of it happened to you and it was a bit of a delay before you realized what was going on. So the days I wake up and I have done the last couple of days, I don't feel myself. I feel there's something not right. Something's not fitting. And then a couple of days later, like today, when I woke up, I'm like, oh, I feel like me again. That last couple of days felt a bit shitty. It's the only way that can explain it. I knew I was me, but there's something that wasn't quite making that connection to be me.
Andy, that's the paranormal hangover from the convention. Like that happened.
That's what I thought, and I thought it might just be knackered from like all the driving. But I've just not felt like I was the proper me. And this has happened a couple of times. But then again, I don't know where the real me has been. I don't know what's going on. And today, I got in and I've started doing everything what I'd normally do. Like getting on top of stuff and doing what I need to do for the channel and all that. And the last 3 days, I've just thought, nah, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah. Well, I'm new to this too, right? It's only just happened to me. So I haven't got the answers for you, but obviously when I do ask questions telepathically, then, they do tend to respond and give me at least an outline of what's gone on. But consciousness can be removed and another consciousness can be put in. That's all I can really say on that.
Yeah. So if to say like you, my consciousness was removed and this is my body, I'm still going to be partly me. I'm still going to know who I am physically, but the consciousness it's like trying to fit, with the shape things that kids have, trying to fit a triangle in a square.
That's it.
That's what I'm getting from this. It's like it's trying to fit, but it won't, so it gives up after so long. Is that how you got on with this?
Well, I think whatever it was that they needed this consciousness for, it was to do some sort of job. I'd like to think it was saving the universe, but the multiverse rather, not the universe. But it's perhaps it's not that special. Perhaps they just needed their toilets cleaning or something. I don't know.
Wait for the email to see how much you're going to get in your paycheck. That's what you want to do.
It's your other consciousness from the other dimension doesn't want to do their shitty job, so they're like, you know what, just get a different one to do that. I'm calling out today.
Yeah.
Well, do you know, it could be something like that. I'm not being thingy, but because you get these super soldiers that go and do these different jobs. We had Tony Rodriguez on a while back.
Yeah.
And he was saying he was more doing like the logistics, doing the trading with different races for different tech. I think he said different technology. So it could have been something like that, and maybe they think that you're not ready to know, or for whatever reason they don't want you to know. Well,
that's whatever it is. I think I think they think that it's about protection of me in some way. So whether my mind could cope with it or quite what was going on, I really don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. But it was definitely a transfer, and it was just a complete and utter change. After some 2 days, the storm passed, and I just felt just amazing, and it was me again. So it was just. I feel blessed to have experienced it. It's kind of like I also had an experience with a mantid, and I was lying in bed, and basically, let's rewind. Tell you the full story, right? Yeah. So, but I was in bed, and my son was crying at the time. He was only 2 years old, I think, and so he wanted a bottle. Obviously, as a husband, you try and do little jobs as and where you can, but mostly, the baby just wants the mother. But you try to do little jobs. So I got up to get him a bottle of milk.
Yeah,
and I went into the hall, started to go down the stairs, and in my mind, I had a vision of a grey, and it was waving at me. Oh. And this wasn't like, so when I say a grey, it was the same sort of height, about 4 foot, something like that. It had more pinkish skin, pinkish white, and it also had a face of a child. It didn't have the big black eyes, okay? And it was waving. And even the thought of it was like, oh, made me jump, right? And I said in my mind telepathically, I said, oh, I thought you guys were supposed to be clever. I said, next time you want to get in touch with me, at least give me some notice, or contact me in the daytime or something like that.
Yeah.
And I heard this voice that came back, and it said, can we observe you? And I thought, that's a really odd request, can we observe you? Well, you're observing me anyway, so what's the deal with that? And so I was very flippant, because I wanted to just get my son's bottle. It was the middle of the night, and I wanted to go back to sleep. And I just flippantly said, yeah, as long as there's not many of you, right? And so I went and I got this bottle, and went upstairs, settled my son, and then thought, you know what, I may as well go to the loo. So I went off to the loo, and then when I opened the bathroom door to come back out of the bathroom, my wife was stood there, and it made me jump, because I wasn't expecting her. I thought she was fast asleep in bed, made me jump. We both had a laugh about it, and then we went to bed. Well, we then started to get a little bit frisky, and I won't go into details or anything like that, but mid-process, I thought about this, can we observe you? And I thought, have they pushed our buttons so then they can watch what we do? Then the most curious thing happened. An entity jumped into my body. Now, to try and explain how that feels, it feels very strange, very weird. It's kind of like, if you can imagine, like a ghost figure, kind of like just jumping into your body. And it felt like if you're on the underground or subway or anything like that, and you're on the train, it's standing room only, but you've got a seat and it's packed, and then a complete stranger comes and sits on your lap, right? That's how weird it felt, right? And so we're still mid-flow of being frisky, and I let this thing take the reins. Now, what I did is I like took a seat back, and this thing then took control of my body, but it didn't know what to do. But I could feel what it was feeling, and
Yeah.
I was like a fumbling teenager again. I didn't know what to do. Right, really hard, and I managed to. I suffered it. Let's say that I suffered it for a good sort of like 10 seconds or so, and then I pushed it out. You can do that mentally. Pushed it out of my physical body.
Yeah.
Well, after we were done, I lay there absolutely euphoric. And normally I feel good, but this felt abnormally amazing. Right, I lay there, looked around the room. Right, I closed my eyes and I could see the whole room again. You know, I could see sort of like the wardrobes, the drawers, the clothes on the floor. And then what happened was reality just unzipped, zip, and it just fell apart like peeling a banana. Zoom.
Yeah.
Like the whole room just unzipped and fell apart, and through came a large green head. All I could see was the head. It was green. It was slightly lumpy. Had big black wraparound eyes that went right across the. It had a shape of like a plectrum or a pick for a guitar, and at the base of it was a little tiny. It had a nose. It had a little tiny mouth. Like literally, this mouth didn't serve any purpose whatsoever. Little tiny mouth, and I was just stunned. And I thought, right, quick, make contact. So I was like, I was saying telepathically, I'm Ambassador Aid for planet Earth, trying to communicate with it.
Yeah.
And it didn't say anything, but what it did was it projected a big image of a human smile. So you could see the lips and the teeth making a big smile. So it was like it was saying, thank you. And so I've experienced another entity's consciousness inside my body. And I don't think many people out there can say that. And it was very strange. So I know now that two things can occupy the same thing, same place at the same time, right? So I know the science is wrong. Two things can occupy the same space at the same time. So from there, I went on to a website called Above Top Secret at the time. I'd not long had a laptop. I didn't really know my way around things. So I'd found this site. It looked like there were lots of reputable people with good experiences on there. So I thought, right, I'll put my experience on there, see if I get anything back. And I had people sort of warning me off, saying, no, you want to remove any contracts and all this sort of stuff. And although it was a strange experience, it wasn't a bad one, right? I've yet to tell you I had an experience with a reptilian, which I mean, I'll remind me and I'll tell you about that afterwards. But yeah, so it wasn't a bad experience, but because of the way people had sort of like scared me on this site, I thought, right, well, you don't want it jumping into any of your family members or anything like that. If I'd have known the parameters of observe you were a free for all jump in, I wouldn't have gone with it anyway. You know, I wouldn't have agreed to it. But it happened. As I say, I didn't feel that it was bad. And then, so I put out telepathically that under no circumstances was I to be observed and without my prior consent. And then I didn't have any more experiences with that entity, which is a real shame, because these experiences are few and far between, and then to have something that is so mind-blowingly amazing and then to lose it, it's really just a bit frustrating. So so I was a bit gutted, truth be told, about that.
Yeah, but do you think so when these entities enter your body, do you think your physical form changes, like shape shifting, or would you say it stays exactly the same?
I haven't experienced shape shifting,
No.
as far as I know. But I mean, I've heard of many accounts of where it has happened, and I I even watched a show. It was one of those reality shows, and I'd only sort of flicked on, and they were all chatting away, and the one lad started saying, he said, "Oh, I keep on sort of like, if I'm having sex," he says, "I keep on imagining myself as a giant lizard," and I thought, whoa, I can't believe they've aired that.
Ooh.
But
Beric got the views.
yeah. So I mean, that was just a regular sort of. I think they went to an ad break quickly after that.
Oh,
but
bet they did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So so I'd say I've had all sorts of experiences. I don't know whether you want me to sort of like go through discussing those experiences, or because I could literally talk until the sun comes up. I've had an entire lifetime. So
well, can we give you a couple of questions related to what you're talking about, and then we'll carry on? Is that all right?
Yeah.
So both
fine.
for these, I'm just going to do the first two first. I'll leave you one till later. So they're both from Polly Rotterman. So welcome, Polly. This is the first one. How do you make the difference between a lucid dream and astral traveling?
Right. Well, basically, a lucid dream, as far as I know, is where you can physically change. Well, I say physically, where you can change things within the dream. You can alter things and mold it to what you want. With astral traveling, it's well, you can do it several different ways, but you are consciously there, so you're experiencing it like you would your normal day. So you've got no way. It's like I can't reach up and switch off the sun. I can't change that. It's always there. There's nothing that I can change. What tends to happen will be like you're watching it as if it's a movie almost, and so I'd say that's more of a base difference between the two, that you're sort of like you can still be conscious in both stages. I know that a lot of people have sort of talked about seeing a silver cord attached to their body. Well, I've never experienced that. I've gone to loads and loads and loads of different places, and it's how do you explain this? Well, some of them, it'll be some places where I go to, the environment and everything is entirely different. Like one place that I went to, I'd got the distinct feeling it was Sirius B, and there were like stalagmites everywhere on the ground. It was very, very difficult terrain, and it was these stalagmites were made of like a black obsidian kind of thing, very spiky, jaggedy, very difficult to move a vehicle across these terrains, so you had to move across it by foot. The sky itself was like a purpley blue hue, and so that was a very, very different terrain, and I was there with a load of mercenaries. That's the best word for it. And they didn't have any helmets on, so they could all breathe outside. So there was obviously oxygen, and there was just a vast ship that was so huge. If you were stood next to it, you couldn't possibly see all of it. It was just immense. And I was there with some sort of corporation, and these mercenaries were going out by foot across this terrain, and they'd taken these big corrugated tubes, and they were like drilling into the ground, and they were extracting oil, but this oil was sentient, right? And what happened is if that came into contact with a human, then it would send them mad, and effectively take over. And so they were extracting this oil. For what purpose, I don't know. And so there was some sort of problem, and I'd left the ship, and all hell was breaking loose. And there was a one of the mercenaries that was carrying another mercenary, and their face was melted off, but they were still alive. And then all of a sudden there was like this very dry, grassy bush material that was there, and that caught fire, which was blocking the way back to the ship. And I was finding it difficult to get back to the ship, and I was thinking, how the hell am I going to get back on this ship? And I noticed there was a woman mercenary, and she was navigating her way around the fire to get back. And then, boom, I was back again. So that's the way I experience stuff. And sometimes it's just like a little snippet of information, and others it's like experiencing a whole day somewhere. So I get things like that. I've been to another place where the people were at like a park, and they were kind of sat down, but the floor was like ice, but it wasn't, like a frozen lake, but it wasn't cold to sit on. I remember looking up, and I was seeing this huge craft that was doing like a pivot motion, slow pivot motion like this, before it then took off. And I was thinking at the time, oh wow, I've got to record this. I've got to, but it had gone. So yeah, little things like that as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a big difference between the two, really.
Yeah. So obviously you can do it. You can go out of body as well, consciously, if you go into a meditative state, and that's exactly the same as the sleep state. So you lie down, you put your arms by your side, you relax, you count from 1 to 10 in your mind, and then when you reach 10, you start again. You do that for about 10 minutes till you get into this super, super relaxed state, and you try not to fall asleep, right? And you're trying to get this whole mind awake, body asleep situation. Your body will then run a check, like an itch on the nose. And if you itch your nose, then your body's like, I know you are awake, and you have to go through it all over again. But the first stage, the first marker to knowing that you're then beginning the process to go out of body is sleep paralysis. A lot of people experience sleep paralysis in the night. They feel very, very scared and stuff like that. When you're relaxing your body down, further and further, you're lowering your breathing as well. So it might be 5% of what it normally does. So you feel like a compression on the chest. and it feels like you can hardly breathe. And it's just basically your body going into shutdown. So get ready for your astral body to exit the physical. Beyond that, then the next marker is you get a vibration.
Yeah.
And this, for me, it was like a drill going in the side of the head. Zzz, 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 like that I could keep on hearing.
Yeah.
Some people, it's like a jet engine going off in the next room. And other people, it's like nothing at all. It's like literally just a little tiny sound, a whooshing or a popping sound. So we're all slightly different, but the process is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And then beyond there, you go to the void, which is the darkest dark, the blackest black you've ever seen in your life. It becomes so black that it almost becomes light again. And in the tree of life, also in Star Wars as well, it's sort of like talks about this process. You've got Darth Vader, and he's always going to the dark side. Well, in the tree of life, you have separates, which are little dot circles, and they form 3 pillars. And some, it'd say that it resembles a tree. Right? Yeah. There is a hidden Sephiroth, which is called Darth, right? And if you go to that Sephiroth, then it takes you to the dark side, which is the other tree on the flip side of the tree of life, which is the tree of knowledge. So it's replicating our process of going out of body. Again, with the separates of the tree of life, you've got the 3 pillars. The middle pillar, center pillar is you. And then on the left and the right are the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So it's fascinating, all these codes that are out there. And we just have to unlock them and figure out what's going on. With the Bible, it talks about the same process. When Jacob met God, right? So Jacob climbed the ladder, his ladder, right? Well, his ladder is the spine, and the Kundalini energy winds up the spine, right? This is the process to go in out body. So it winds up the spine, comes to your pineal gland, and then we exit the physical body. But I say the pineal gland in the brain is known as the third eye. And so Jacob climbed his ladder, the spine, and he met God, right? What some people call coming out of body Christ consciousness. Okay, so you're elevating yourself to a higher being, a higher self. Okay, so he met with God. Now he called that place pineal land, right? And not the pineal gland. It's right there in the Bible. So it's telling you the process to coming out of body. Also, in the words of Jesus, he said, the lamp of the body is the eye, not eyes, the eye, singular. He said, when thine eye be single, your whole body will be full of light. And again, it's telling you about the whole process. This is exactly what we do every single night. We rise up every single morning. We fall back into skin, a perpetual motion of rising and falling. And the codes are there. It's just, you have to unlock them and understand just how amazing we are. We are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I can go on to tell you a few more of my sort of experiences if you like, or if you've got any more questions, I can answer some more questions.
We do have some questions.
Do you want to do the next one, Nicole?
Sure. This one is from Polly. How do you make a difference between telepathic communication and your inner voice?
Okay. Well, there are different ways you can know, because if you ask a question to yourself, you will come back with the answer. It's for if you ask something that you didn't know the answer and something comes back, then obviously that's a very good sign that that is telepathic communication. Now, telepathic communication is like when you are speaking. I always read a book like this. This is why it takes me forever to read a book. But as I read the line, I've got to say the words in my mind, and that's what you have to do for telepathy: is you say the words in your mind. Now, to say whether you know the difference, I can tell you about the reptilian experience, and this kind of touches on that one as well.
Yeah.
You see, because with what I'm saying, you if you ask a question, it might just be just complete silence. But if you've got something that comes straight back out of the blue, then it's a pretty good sign that it's telepathic communication. So I'd gone out for the evening with my wife and family. Nothing sinister there. Gone out for a meal, came back, we went to bed, and I was lying there in the phase state, which is between sort of like asleep and awake.
Yeah.
And I'd got my eyes closed, and I kept on seeing what appeared to me like a huge lizard, like it had a very big snout, like it was projecting as a T-Rex, but not with the little tiny arms, big muscular arms, a very, very long tail. It had mottled green skin, but across its chest was like a beigey kind of color, and it was like in segments, right? It had claws on its hands, and its eyes were slitted, and they were red. And it kept on sort of like showing its teeth, snarling at me, and coming up, showing its eye really, really close, really trying to intimidate me. And I was sort of like shook my head, and I tried to think of something else, but it kept on coming back. And so I thought, well, I guess I'll ask it, what do you want? I sent that message telepathically, and instantly the message came back, your wife. And it was all really nasty and intimidating. And I was like, I was racked with fear. I mean, what do you do? How do you escape that? It's coming in here. Was I going mad? All these things. I was petrified, right? And but that was telepathic message coming back. That wasn't me just sort of like plucking that out the air. That was definite telepathic communication. And a command came to me, and I don't know to this day where it came from, right? And it said I was to stand defiantly in my mind and say, I am one of the children of the light. You are not welcome here. Leave now. To which this thing started laughing. Now, there were two of them that were laughing, right? I could only see in my mind's eye, I could only see one, but there were definitely two laughing. So, they didn't take my threat very seriously. But what happened about 15 minutes, he was trying to intimidate me, and the eye and everything. And then it left after 15 minutes. And I'd kind of like got this feeling, right, okay, you're safe to go to sleep now. And I thought to myself, woo, I'm not telling my wife this at all, right? She's going to think, hello, he's gone. He's gone crazy. So I just thought, I'm not gonna say. So I managed to go to sleep. And then when I woke up the next morning, before I could say a word, my wife said to me, she said, I had a terrible night's sleep last night. She said, I had this snake's tongue flicking out at me and these lizard's eyes staring at me. And I was stunned. So obviously then I told her everything that I had experienced.
Yeah.
And this was before we'd got a laptop or anything like that. I didn't know what to do. All I had to go by was what the movies said. And that was, kind of like to walk around burning sage, saying the Lord's Prayer. So that's what I did around the house. But the thing is, this is a multi-dimensional being. So, I mean, it could have resided around the house, but I mean, anyway, but it doesn't end there. See, we couldn't find my dog Rona at the time. I'd got two dogs. She was alpha female of the two, the youngest, and we couldn't find her anywhere. Then finally we found her. She was underneath the bed in the spare room. Now the dogs weren't allowed up in the spare room, weren't allowed upstairs, and she was shaking and she was cowering, eyes wide as saucers, and she was panting heavily under the bed. And this was basically the morning after all this whole thing with the reptilian. And it took me, I had to crawl under the bed. It took me 15 minutes of calming her down and stroking her and saying loving things to her before she'd even venture out. So this thing hadn't got the reaction it wanted from either myself or my wife, so it turned its attentions on our dog. So that was, from there, I got a laptop and I studied to find out everything I possibly could about reptilians to try and keep my family safe. And now the thing is there was the one command line that came to me. I am one of the children of the light. Well, it took me 10 years of research, but I finally found where that line comes from. And there is something called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth or Toth, depending where you are. TH0TOZ. THOTH is the Egyptian one that looks like a crane. And within those emerald tablets, he talks about the children of the light, and he mentions them several times. So whether I've got this connection, whether I'm one of them, or whether that was just a command to scare this entity away, I don't know. But it was fascinating that I was able to find it, in the emerald tablets.
Do you have like a particular affinity for like Egyptian culture or anything like that?
I don't. I've been to Egypt a couple of times. I've sat on the Great Pyramid. My biggest regret is that we got talked out of going inside the Great Pyramid. It's supposed to be this energetic thing that's just amazing. And basically the guide at the time, we went early in the morning and it was already something like 50-degree heat. And he said, if you go in the Great Pyramid, he said, it's even hotter. He said, so he put us right off it. So we sat on it, but we didn't go inside. And I regret that to this day. But saying that, my wife has had a few recalls of what she calls dreams. I know are sort of like astral experiences where it's different realities. And she has been an Egyptian. No, it wasn't a priestess, an Egyptian priestess, and she had snakes wrapped around both arms. So if that's anything, I don't know. But she's obviously got this connection and affinity to Egypt.
Yeah.
Whereas, I haven't. I'm just the go-between by the looks of it.
Have you?
They come along to scare, yeah.
Yeah. Have you looked into your ancestors to see if there's any Egyptian connections?
I haven't, to be honest. My mum has looked into sort of our family tree and things like that, but she's not gone that far back. My story really begins with my gran on my dad's side, and she had the gift. She was renowned in the whole area of having the sight, and people used to go to her, and they'd have facial scars or warts or things like that, disfigurements.
Yeah,
and they'd go to her, and she'd say, "Do you believe I can take this?" Right?
Yeah.
And they would say yes, and she would reach up with the hand, brush their face, put it in her pocket, and she said, "I'll take that. In the morning, that'll be gone." And then in the morning, it was gone. She was renowned across the whole area. And now, obviously, you know all about the placebo effect.
Yeah.
Right. But if it's not that, then there's something very interesting going on in my lineage. So, yeah, she died on my second birthday of all days as well. So I didn't really get to meet her as such consciously, to remember her. But yeah. So that's just an interesting thing from my family tree. But I haven't gone back to find out about Egypt or anything along those lines.
No. Are you planning on doing or?
I am now. So I've thought about it. I thought, well, yeah. Well, why not?
Might as well.
Yeah, especially with all the different stuff that's gone on recently, where they're saying about the structures underneath the pyramids. I mean that as we wait for further confirmation. But if it is proven to be fact, then quite clearly. A bunch of slaves didn't drag 50 to 75 ton blocks and stuff like that, and then stack them however hundreds of feet high. I never ever for once bought the whole idea that slaves built the pyramids. So, and I've always had more of an affinity with the stars. What is interesting is that I've got freckles on my bicep that are in the same position as Orion's belt, and my son has matching ones on his arm, but it's a different arm. Mine's on my right, his is on the left. And so it's the same. So you've got the two that are virtually in line, and then the one that's a bit further down that's not in line.
Yeah, that just drops.
Yeah. So hopefully we're not marked like cattle or anything like that. And but it's just fascinating. I've not seen. There's no other freckles around, and it's on both of our arms. So I did note there was a post a couple of years ago I saw where there is a lone freckle. People have this lone freckle on their inside forearm. It can, and I don't have that, but I've got these Orion's belt ones on my bicep.
No, I'm just checking. I've not. But I have got 3 on my just above my knee that kind of look a bit like the Orion's belt. I'm not getting my leg out on air now, but but I've always thought, it's because I've had them for years. I've always thought that's quite different. No, it's just like you've got one that goes to the other, then the other one just drops down.
Yeah.
Just for you saying that,
well, I've always had an affinity with the stars, even when I've been young. Always looked up, and I've never really felt like I've I'm meant to be here. I've always
Yeah.
sort of looked up and sort of like felt my home was, I wanted to go back home, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I'm here. I'm here to do a job, and I'm trying my best to explain stuff that I experience, and it's tricky sometimes, you know. And I've only really started to connect the dots over what's happened in my life to be like, well, this doesn't happen to most people, and
Yeah.
you know, I listen to all sorts of sort of like podcasts and stuff like that, and uh, you know, a lot of the people that are out there talking, they've got some similar experiences, but they haven't got
Yeah.
a fraction of the stuff that I've experienced in my life. I've also seen that I got a chip in my brain as well.
Yes, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. Well, I had one of those CT scans, the big
Yeah.
machine that rotates around you and stuff like that. Because as I've started to connect the dots as well, I'd seen a triangular craft in the sky when I was about
Yeah.
19. It was later on I found that it was part of the called the Cosford incident, where thousands of people across the UK saw this triangular craft, and I was one of them. Well, after seeing this craft, I can't remember losing any time or anything. I don't recollect losing any time, but I had a set of 3 blackouts. Hence, I had this CT scan.
Yeah.
So I went to then come out of the room, and I looked off to the right, and I saw there was a open door, and there was a nurse sat at a screen, and I was drawn to her. So I walked over, and she looked like a rabbit in headlights when she saw me, but I'd already got there to the room, and I thought that was a bit weird. Pardon me. And she was looking at the image of a brain, and I said, "Oh, is that my brain?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, yes, it is." She says, "We don't normally let people look." Said, "But you're here now, so there we go." And then she goes, "You've got an unusually large brain for your head," which I thought was the most bizarre chat-up line I've ever heard. But I'll take it. And and then I had another look, and I said, "What's that?" And there was a very clearly defined grain of rice right in the center. And she went weird again. She was like, she goes, "Well, that's probably part of your problem." She said, "But it's too deep to operate, so we'll leave it." And I was like, "Okay." So, but it was there. It was clear as day. You know, so I think she got nervous because she was thinking, you know, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, if she's never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
Did she not?
That'll explain why she acted so just weird. Yeah. Rabbit in headlights she was. Yeah.
So
it was
have you not looked into it? And my phone keeps falling and it won't. There we go. Have you not looked into what it could be?
No, well, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, whatever it is, if it's sort of like they're still there, I don't know. The reason I say if it's there or still there is because there's a certain sequence of things that are going on in my life that are just curious beyond belief. I've only just made the connection between seeing this triangular craft, having blackouts, and then having to go for the CT scan. I've only just kind of like connected that together. When because I was sort of like visited at a young age, from about 5 years old. I can remember these things shuffling into my room, and the room going very cold, and me going into the fetal position and just pulling the duvet up over my head, and I just got a breathing space, and I was like eyes tight, saying, "Please don't find me, please don't find me," because I'd got this recollection as well, with my feet pulled in as tight as I could, that I'd been pulled out by my feet. Now I think that's my astral body that had been pulled out of my physical body.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been visited from a very young age, and it's sort of like connecting these different things, and so from then I'd had a lot of sleep paralysis as a kid, and I remember being in sort of like these white rooms with a load of other children and stuff like that, and we were tasked to design a different craft to go in space. And I decided I was going to design a space station. And, you know, all the kids were like all dead excited. And I was like, no, mine's going to be the best kind of one. And I can't remember seeing a teacher, but there was a teacher present somewhere, but I didn't see one. And the table and the room and everything was white. So from there, then, as sort of like had the CT scan, got the chip in the brain, all of that sort of stuff. I'd already also seen a shadow being. I can talk about that as well, if you like, at some point.
Yeah.
But with the chip as well, why I said about it, whether it's still there or not, was that I've also survived having a quarter of a ton weight fall on my head. I used to work for a company that made manual lifting machines.
Yeah.
And there's basically a cable that goes around the back. And I'd got this machine tilted back, a quarter of a ton in weight, onto forklift forks. And I'd left it there for half an hour. I went back, it hadn't moved a jot. And I thought, oh, well, maybe the cable is jammed. I'll just have a look. So I peered down behind it. That split second that I did that, this machine fell about 2 foot in height, quarter of a ton, and bang onto my head. So my head was like the meat in the metal sandwich, right? Between the solid steel forks and this quarter of a ton. It's like, to try and imagine it, it's like hitting a melon with a sledgehammer, right? My head should have just gone, right? But it didn't. It didn't. I had a split second to yank my head out as this thing sort of like bounced off my head. My glasses at the time just flew off my head. And I was on my hands and knees for a good sort of like 15 minutes in this warehouse, all by myself.
Yeah.
And it didn't knock me out either. And my head was just ringing. And I finally plucked up the courage to sort of like have a feel around. See, I thought, well, doesn't feel like there's any massive dents. I had a look, right? There's no blood. So I staggered and wrote something in the health and safety book. I don't know what that is to this day, but it took me, I had to learn to walk again, and it took me 6 months, and I was able to walk again. The doctors were stunned. So it's a very unusual thing to happen. The fact that it just didn't move all that time, and then the very second that I put my head there, bang, it fell.
Yeah.
My thoughts are, did that have to happen to deactivate what was in there? That's kind of like what I've kind of come to terms with, that it was the reason for it all. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, you know, can't say either way, but I've kind of like, I've not gone into it even more than that. And I've just kind of left it, really, because there's not really anything I can do about it either way. So it's just,
no, it's happened. It's
Yeah.
happened, didn't it? Right.
Yeah.
We've got 15 minutes left, and we've got 4 questions. Is that all right?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
So the first 3 from Polly, and the last one's from Darren, Baby with a Laser. So
Okay. Is that too bright, or is shall I have that on or not?
you're
It
fine.
lets you down a little bit, but it's not bad.
Okay.
All right. If you need it on, leave it on.
Oh, right. Okay. Right.
Yep.
Go on then.
So first question from Polly: how do you make a difference between telepathic
we did that one already.
communication? Oh, did we? Right.
Yeah.
Ignore me. Right. You got 3 questions. So this question: can those different consciousness of that same person being in different times, past, present, future, while dreaming?
Yeah. Well, basically, dreams are not dreams. Dreams are our astral body exiting the physical body and going to various different places. So, it's as I say, the process to going out of body is exactly the same as the meditative state. So it is exactly the same as the sleep state. So dreams are not dreams; they're your astral body experiencing infinite realities. And what we do is we go to different places, about sort of like 7 or 8 different places. Right.
Yeah.
That's why you can be sort of like at one place and then, you say all of a sudden, I was somewhere else, and that's what happens. It kind of like it's going through a cycle of like, right, going to this place, to this place, to this place. This is why I sort of say whether it's like jumping from place to place, with what we can do, because we've got so many different powers and abilities. We can teleport. We can, you name it, whatever you think about, you can do over in the astral, right? Things are a lot more vivid, like high definition, so sounds are sharper, emotions are more heightened, colors are brighter, so it's like HD. So with sort of experiencing where you go, so I can remember what tends to be, I can remember the last place that I go. I have the memory of that. So if I can feel and I can remember that, then my other selves can, I should imagine, remember where it is that they are going, whether they're in the same trap as us. I'll call it a trap. The planet is almost like kind of like, we've got control measures where like calling it dreams when it's anything but dreams. And the whole fact of remembering when we come back to body, it's like water going down a plug hole real quick. You start to really give it a couple of minutes and you've completely forgotten where it is you've been and what you've done. So there is residual memory, so you can remember stuff. It just takes a bit of practice, and and I'm going to be honest, it doesn't happen to me all the time. I don't remember everything all the time. Sometimes I'll wake up and it's like, I can't remember a thing. But the ones where I've had experiences with non-humans in particular, I try and remember those, or unusual things that might involve the Illuminati, or they might involve I went to a place that I called the Church of Satan. That was another odd place that I remembered vividly, really, really strongly. So yes, we do have residual memory. I hope I've answered that question best I can. Have I missed anything?
No, I think everything covered on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Next one. I'll let you do this.
So this is another one from Polly. Why, in your opinion, so many different alien species had so much interest in your consciousness or body?
Great question. I still don't know, but I sort of know, right? Obviously, I've experienced stuff consciously and seen stuff like a shadow being as well. Saw that in the conscious experience. I've communicated with, I had telepathic communication with entities in the phase state. I've had communication with Pleiadians while I've been in the bath. It's this whole kind of thing while you're in a very relaxed state. Again, it's the meditative state you put yourself into, okay, which then opens the door and makes you more tuned in to contact. Now, another thing is that you've got to work on your telepathic communication, right? Being able to speak clearly, because our mind and reality around us is fractured, deliberately so. You know, we're thinking, oh, that's a nice color. What's that over there, over there? You know, and your mind is constantly going. So if you're think of yourself as an entity, smart entity, and you want to speak to somebody and have a conversation with them, but they're going blah, 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 you know, or they're like their mind is there, over there, and there, and there, and there, and you can't have a good conversation. So this is why they don't communicate with enough people, is because they've not got enough focus. I think that's the main reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, one more. Want to do that one?
Yeah, go on. So this is from Darren, and he wants to know, can the recent sun activity, CMEs, etc., play any part or affect things in all of this?
So can you just repeat that? So the sun activity.
So all the solar flares that are happening,
yes,
well, these are the ones that are happening now.
Yeah.
These play any part in the stuff that's going on with yourself, do you think?
Oh, well, I think that's absolutely. We get messages and stuff like that from the sun. That's why they're trying to block out the sun. It's nothing to do with climate change. It's nothing to do with global warming. It's all nonsense, right? The sun isn't our enemy, and we get downloads from the sun, right? Energetic downloads. Okay, and what is happening at the moment is we're going through an awakening, and it's not just me. It's happening to everybody, and people are getting more and more tuned in and more awake to what's going on around us. But yeah, these energetic bursts, absolutely, they'll be adding to my ability and everybody else's to sort of like focus in, and it might be certain times of year where that's stronger or weaker. So yeah, definitely, absolutely, 100%.
Excellent, thank you. Have you any questions, Nicole?
I'm still trying to get like my head around everything. It's a lot.
I know.
That's what you're saying before. It's like one of those things, like it's really interesting. That I feel like you need to go back and rewatch to like fully
take it all in.
No, and believe me, I've lived it, and I still don't understand it. It's very difficult to try and sort of explain it, but I explain it the best I can. And you know, tonight's conversation, hopefully we'll have another one. But tonight, just haven't even scratched the surface of all the things that have gone on, so I try my best to explain to people, but I've kept this all under wraps for a good many years, and you know, I haven't even sort of like explained or told sort of like how I had these conversations with close family. You know, it's only been the past sort of like 6 years or so that I've decided, right, I'll come out and I'll start explaining my story and trying to help other people, so then they have the experiences too. Because I don't want to be the only one that's having all these things. I do believe in a way that I'm supposed to be a teacher of some sorts, so then I can teach other people. And I don't want any money. I don't want fame or fortune or anything. I just want people to know what I can do, so then they do it too. And these experiences are mind blowing. the different races that I've been in contact with, it's just there's so many. Go from ones that are like over 17 foot tall to others that you could fit in the palm of your hand. And I know that there's some people that have had maybe one experience, right? And then they will turn to me and they'll be like, oh, yeah, you're making up. There's no way you could have all those experiences and stuff. But it's true. And what can you say to somebody that says that to you? It's just like, well, sorry, it's true. If you don't believe me, fine,
Well, that's it. You're not there to convince them. You're there to share what's gone on.
No, well, it's just that. But also, it's like when I had that conversation at 4:44 in the morning, being told about the true nature of reality. We exist in multiple places, all simultaneous. And I was supposed to think of each reality as a string to a guitar. Well, I'd kind of written that down. It was on some post, and somebody had come back and they said, that's string theory. And I was like, string theory? What the hell's that? Oh, I'm just a window cleaner by day, right? I'm nothing special. But I do get to spend all day out in the sunshine, which well, when it does shine in England,
as and when.
Not if they're not falling. But obviously I don't. I've never really liked maths. It's always been a big headache to me, stuff like that. So when somebody said string theory, I went and I had a look up what string theory was, and it's absolutely what I was told. And so. With what they say now is, I don't know. I've heard somebody say, first of all, they were saying, the scientists saying there was 11 different dimensions. Then I've heard somebody say there was 17. Well, I can tell you, it's infinite, right? And it just goes on and on and on. So the possibilities of different races and everything, it's absolutely infinite. And what people need to remember, I kind of like sum it up like a tiger, right? If I was to go into a room with a tiger, chances are that tiger will bite my leg off, and I'll think that tiger is bad. But it's just a tiger being a tiger, right? And so obviously with these different races, they may do things and have different agendas and different things that they do, and it might impact us negatively, and we therefore think they're bad. But it's just, like I say, it's just a tiger being a tiger. We just need to sort of like obviously get wise and grow up really as people. So, but we're getting there. That's the good side. We're getting
there eventually. Right, so I'm going to end it on this. So you sent me this picture. So you want to...
Right, yeah. Basically, this is going to... You've got the sneak peek of the book that I'm going to release, which is my diaries of my interdimensional travel. And I'd originally written this book as a way of giving it to my boys. So then they then... can learn, and so I'm going to be releasing that hopefully later on this year. I also have a book out at the moment where I channeled an entire story. It is called Sustainable Development. Instead of development, it's got the word devil, and it's got 2033. And so if you go to Amazon, put Aid Morris 2033, it should pop up really easy. And basically I channeled an entire story there, and I've set the price so then it is as low as possible, so I'm literally getting paid nothing for the book, because it's information that was given to me that was to be given to the public, and so look that one up. I believe now it's a different timeline that has occurred, and we're on a different one now, but it's a bit of apocalyptic kind of vision where the reptilians come to the planet and install AI and put everyone into isolation kind of thing. So, but it's a good read, and it's well worth it. It talks about the reptilians' plans and agendas and stuff like that as well.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Look forward to that. So thank you, Aid, for coming on. Hopefully you come back on again soon. We definitely do a part 2. We've got it.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe by then I'll be able to rewatch this one and understand everything a little better.
She says. I'll rewatch it and know even less than what I did before I started.
Probably.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely do a part 2. We'll do a part 10 if you like, and we might just about cover everything that I've done.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope people enjoyed it out there. That's the main thing.
The messages in the chat, everyone's loved it. So thank you, Aid. Really do
appreciate
it. Cool. Right, just before we go, I'm recording a podcast tomorrow with Kate Ray for her and the half arm. So we're doing that. That'll be out in the next week or so. Then next week we've got Bob Brown coming on. Week after that we've got Louis Snooks, and then the week after that we've got Laureate Reinfeldt. She was one of the military personnel at the Rendlesham incident back in 1980. That is all I'm going to tell you. We've guessed that we've got coming on because it just, it's going to implode, put it that way. So thank you again, Aid.
Okay, you're
absolute
welcome.
Legend. Love watching you speak in real life, and love you coming on the show as well. Definitely sort something out for you to come back on. So join us next week. We've nothing now till next week anyway. And we've got Bob Brown coming on now that he's got his internet sorted. So have a wonderful week, an even better weekend, and try and not get abducted by anything, and we'll all be all right. Can't guarantee it, but you never know. So thanks, everyone. And thank you to everyone listening on podcast as well. You can listen on podcast, Audible. I just said, say a quick hello and goodbye to everyone watching on Kick. So it's a new platform. You literally just send it out there and it does it, and you don't have to do anything. So all good. Right, that's it. So take care and see you next week. Bye-bye.